Hello guys, so welcome to RC Techno Trends. So it's been a long time we have been connected with, okay, and today I came up with one topic from human computer interaction subject. The topic name is evaluation techniques, okay. So here first we are going to learn about the evaluation, okay, and then we are going to learn about the techniques which are available for evaluating the human computer interaction we have developed. Okay, so first of all, what is the evaluation? Okay, so the evaluation is nothing but actually we are using HCI. We are developing one interface, okay, which is going to be called as the system here. Okay, this system actually will it acts as an interface between the human as well as the computer. Okay, so here the evaluation is nothing but okay, which tests the usability and the functionality of the system we have designed or developed, which occurs in the laboratory or in the field or in the collaboration with the users. And the evaluation evaluates both the design as well as the implementation of the design. Okay, and it should be considered at all stages in the design life cycle. So the system whatever you have been developed, okay, there we are going to have some life cycle for the design. So in every stage of the design life cycle we are going to evaluate for the functionality of the system, whether it meets the functionality or not, and if it is not meeting, then we need to do the project again, the system from the starting requirements, and then we need to implement it again, and we need to test for the usability as well as the functionality of the system. So at every stage of the design life cycle you are going to evaluate for the functionality as well as the usability of the system. And then we are here to learn the goals of the evaluation. Okay, the goals of the evaluation are: first one, it is going to evaluate or assess the extent of the system functionality, and the next one, it is going to assess the effect of the interface on the user in terms of the visibility, the audibility, or in terms of the usability. We are going to assess the thing, and then this assessment, the evaluation is going to identify the problems in the specific areas like design, okay, the user interface, okay, in terms of the navigation, in terms of the screen design, in terms of the layouts, and in terms of the things, okay, whatever we have, okay, whatever we need to consider, all the things, all the considerations are going to be tested and evaluated, and there we are going to identify some specific problems. Okay, so these are the goals of the evaluation. And then we are going to learn about the evaluating designs. Okay, here we have discussing about the three types of the three evaluating device. The first one is cognitive walkthrough, the second one is heuristic evaluation, and the third one is review based evaluation. The cognitive walkthrough is nothing but it is going to evaluate the design and how well it supports the user in the learnability of the task view which you have designed or developed. Okay, so and then it is going to be performed by the cognitive walkthrough is going to be performed by the experts who are in the cognitive psychology, who are experts in the cognitive psychology. Actually, this cognitive walkthrough was proposed by the Paulson. Okay, so he has told that he has proposed that the whatever the cognitive walkthrough evaluating design. Okay, so that has to be done in the supervision of the experts in the cognitive psychology, and the expert is going to walk through the design to identify the potential problems using psychological principles. That's why we are calling it as walkthrough. Okay, and here we are using the psychological principles. That's because it becomes the cognitive walkthrough, and this cognitive walkthrough forms used to guide the analysis of the system which you have developed. Okay, and for each task walkthrough considers, Okay, for every task, the walkthrough, the cognitive, the psychological principles, according to the psychological principles, the walkthrough considers what impact will interaction have on user, and the what is the cognitive process, what are the cognitive processes which are required to confirm, which are required to evaluate the design, and what learning problems may occur while learning the design you have developed. And the analysis, okay, so after completion of the thing, okay, we are going to analyze the system. This analyzing focus on the goals and knowledge. Does the design lead the user to generate the correct goals or not? The goals are nothing but, okay, so if I'm going to, if I'm developing one application for some specific person, okay, specific reason, specific purpose, okay, then that specific person purpose has been achieved by the design or not, is going to be is going to be decided, or it is going to be analyzed through the cognitive walkthrough. And the next thing is we are going to discuss about the heuristic evaluation. And this was proposed by Nielsen and Molich. And the criteria, actually, it is going to here, the heuristic is nothing but it is a criteria, and the usability criteria is going to be identified before examining by the experts. And the design examined by experts to see if these are the criteria are violated. Whatever the usability criteria, first of all, okay, so whatever, if I'm going to have one application, okay, so that application is used for reservation of the railways, okay, then first I need to identify the usability criteria, and then the experts are going to examine the design by seeing if those criteria, whatever the criteria you have, usability criteria you have identified, that are violated or not. If they are violated, then the design is not according to the requirements. Okay, and the example criteria are system behavior is predictable, system behavior is consistent, and the feedback has been provided. If I have designed one application for the railway reservation system, for example, and once I have done with my reservation, okay, it has to give me some feedback that your reservation has completed successfully, and here is your ticket, and this is your waiting list, or this is your confirmed ticket numbers, and this is your confirmed seat berth number, and all these things has to be given by the system. If they were not defined, or if they were not given back, the feedback is not provided, then that system is useless actually, because I have selected the beds in the rail train coach, okay, and then I have paid amount, okay, and then it has to give me feedback that the payment was successfully and the seats were reserved for you successfully. The number of seats reserved for you is 2, and the seat numbers are S11. In S11 coach it is 14 and 15. Okay, so the heuristic evaluation debugs the design. Actually, this criteria-based evaluation is going to debug the design. It is going to check for the errors, or the behavior is correct or not. Everything is going to be checked or examined by the heuristic evaluation. And the next one is review-based evaluation. Here, the name itself saying the review. Okay, so the results from the literature used to support or refute parts of design. So you are going to take the reviews. You are going to take the reviews, and then this is going to evaluate for the design's flaws. And this is actually a model-based evaluation, and the cognitive models used to filter design options, the GOMS prediction of user performance, and the design rationale can also provide useful evaluation information. This is regarding the review-based evaluation. And the next thing is, okay, in the first slide, the evaluation techniques, what is meant by evaluation, okay, so here the test of the usability test and tests the usability and functionality of system that can be done by the designs, evaluation designs, and then you are going to evaluate in the collaboration with the users. Okay, in the collaboration with the users. So here evaluating through user participation. You are going to evaluate your design through the user participation. So the first one is laboratory studies. We are going to have here advantages, okay, so and disadvantages and appropriate scenarios for the laboratory studies have been discussed here. Okay, the advantages of laboratory studies are specialist equipment available and uninterrupted environment actually. So already there is an equipment to test for the design successfulity or usability or functionality. Okay, so we have some equipment over there, and that equipment will be used to test for the evaluate the design, and it is an uninterrupted environment. And actually there are so many disadvantages, and two of them are lack of context and difficult to observe several users cooperating. So it is an interrupted environment, and it is in the laboratory. Okay, so there are only one or two or more 10 members of the users will be there in the study. Okay, and that there it is very difficult to observe the several users cooperating with each other to give the input for the system. And it is actually appropriate for the appropriate for the locations. Okay, the system location is dangerous or impractical for constrained single user systems to allow controlled manipulation of the user. Yep. Okay, so here the location actually is dangerous. Okay, when the system has need to be implemented, or it need to be deployed in a dangerous situation, there no need to go for there and taking the use of other users, and we need not worry about the considerations have to be satisfied, that requirements have to be satisfied or not. We are not necessary to do all the things, and the same situation, the same environment has been created here in the laboratory, and we can go for the study, and it will be very optimal for the such cases. The laboratory studies will be optimal for such cases. And then we are going to have here the field study. Okay, so here you are going to visit some field. Okay, and there you are going to do some studies, and if there is problem, then we are going to rectify those problems. Otherwise there is no need to worry about that thing. Okay, and the advantages of the field study are natural environment actually, where exactly the system has to be deployed. There you are going to deploy the system for the testing purpose, and that will be evaluated for the flaws in the design. And the context retained, the context is going to be available with us. Okay, where exactly it has to be available, where exactly it has to be available, there we are going to check for the flaws. And the longitudinal studies possible. Okay, obviously you are going to have some where you are going to location based studies are going to be possible in the field study. And the disadvantages are like, as we know, distractions and the noise will be the most optimal disadvantage for the field study. And the appropriate situation where the context is crucial for the longitudinal studies. Okay, so there you can go for the field studies. Okay, and evaluating implementations. Okay, so here you are going to implement, you are going to have the evaluation in terms of the implementation requires an artifact and simulation. You are going to have prototype, you are going to have full implementation, you are going to have. Okay, so experimental evaluation, you are going to have controlled evaluation of specific aspects of the interactive behavior. So you are going to evaluate in terms of the experiments. Okay, the hypothesis you are going to be have, and the hypothesis is going to be tested, and that hypothesis is going to be checked for the flaws in the system or not. Okay, so you are going to work on the system in real time, and you are going to evaluate the system for the flaws or the problems in the design. Okay, and the experimental factors are here: the subjects, variables, hypothesis, and experimental design. The subjects are who actually who are going to participate into the experiment, and the variables, the things to modify and measure actually. So what exactly you need to modify and you need to measure and you need to consider for the evaluation, and the hypothesis, what you would like to show to the user or someone else who is actually need to use that application in the real life or real time. And the experimental design, you are going to have some design which is going to provide how that experiment is going to be done by you. Okay, so these are the factors for the experimental evaluation. And the variables here, we are going to have two types of the variables. One is independent variable and the dependent variable. So independent variable is nothing but it is going to be observable on its own. Characteristic change to produce different conditions, interface style, number of menu items, and all these things. And dependent, it is going to be measured in the experiment. The time taken, the number of errors, the number of the usability, the usability measure, and the functionality of the system, and all these are the dependent variables. And these independent variables and the dependent variables are going to be evaluated in the experimental evaluation. And this is going to be called as the functionality, and this is going to be called as the usability. Okay, so the independent variables are going to provide the functionality of the system, and the dependent variables are going to provide the usability of the system. And the hypothesis is going to be prediction of the outcome. What exactly the outcome has to come, first we are going to predict. And if it is, that is going to be framed in terms of the independent variables as well as the dependent variables. And the example here is error rate will increase as font size decreases. Obviously, if I'm going to decrease the size of the font, okay, then the usability, the visibility of the screen, the visibility of the questions or the visibility of the interface is going to be reduced, and the errors will be increased. And we are going to have the null hypothesis. It is going to state no difference between the conditions, and aim is to disprove this. Null hypothesis is equal to no change with the font size. Actually, this is a wrong statement. The hypothesis should be provided for such that the whatever the conditions you are going to satisfy, you need to satisfy, they need to be satisfied based on the system's independent variables and the dependent variables. And the experimental design, here you are going to have the within the groups and between the groups you are going to have experimental design. Within the groups design, each subject performs experiment under each condition. Transfer of learning possible, less costly and less likely to suffer from user variation. And between groups design, you are going to have each subject performs under only one condition and no transfer of learning, and more users required, variation can be biased results. Okay, and the analysis of the data, before you start to do any statistics, you need to look at the data and you need to save the original data and work on the copied data. Otherwise, the original data will be replaced by the modifications or the characteristics, heuristics we are going to taken into the consideration for the evaluation, and the data is not going to be replaced or regained from the to the original data. And the choice of the statistical techniques depends on the type of the data and the information we required to evaluate the system. And the type of data will be of two types, discrete and continuous. The discrete is nothing but finite number of values, and the continuous any number of the values you are going to have. Okay, and the analysis here, you are going to have the types of the test. The first one is parametric, the second one is non-parametric, and third one is contingency table. The parametric is nothing but assume normal distribution, robust and powerful you are going to have, and non-parametric, it doesn't assume normal distribution of the data, and it is less powerful actually, and less powerful, but it is more reliable. And the contingency table, you are going to classify the data by the discrete attributes, okay, and count number of data items in each group you are going to do. And the what information actually you required for the analysis of the data. Is there any difference? First one. And if there is any difference, then how big is the difference? And then if the biggest of the difference you are going to have, then how accurate is the estimate? How accurate, whatever you estimated, okay, how accurate is the estimate? And here the difference between the estimation and the exact values, analysis of the data, outcome of the analysis of the data. If there is any difference, then how big is the difference, and how accurate is the estimate? If the difference is small, then the accuracy will be high. And the parametric and non-parametric tests mainly address the first of these. Parametric and non-parametric are going to be addresses the difference between the estimated and original data. And experimental studies on groups, okay, this is actually in the within groups, and this is on groups, okay, more difficult than single user experiment. And the problems with the subject groups, choice of task, data gathering, and analysis. Okay, so next, subject groups. Here you are going to have larger number of subjects, more expensive it will be, longer time to settle down, even more variation, difficult to timetable. So often only these 4 groups you are going to have. Actually, larger number of the subjects if you are going to have, then it will be more expensive, and longer time it is going to settle down. Okay, so you are going to have the more variation, and it is actually difficult to the timetable. And the task is here, we are discussing about the task. Here it is going to encourage the cooperation, the task, and it perhaps involve the multiple channels, multiple users into this task. And the options we have for the task are, okay, creative task, decision game, control task. The creative task example is write a short report on something. You are going to have a creative task which is going to ask you for writing a short report on some task you have given with. And the decision games, desert survival task. You are going to give with some task, desert survival. So you are going to decision based on the survival of yourself in the desert. And the control task is nothing but Arcola bottling plant it is going to have. So these are the different tasks we are going to have, and these tasks must encourage the cooperation among the users. And the data gathering, okay, so the data will be gathered through several video cameras, direct logging of application, and the problems with the data gathering are synchronization and sheer volume, and the one solution is record from each perspective. So if you are going to have a room, okay, and if you want to record all the data, save the data from this room, okay, then you need to record from all the 8 perspectives. This is an example only. So from each perspective you need to record, and the perception based on the perception, based on the perspective, you need to consider which one has to be taken into the consideration. And the analysis of the data gathered will be vast variation between the groups. And the solutions for the vast variation is within group experiments you need to do, and microanalysis you need to have the gaps in between the speech, and anecdotal and qualitative analysis you need to perform. And the look at the interactions between group and media you need to do, and controlled experiments may waste the resources. This is regarding the analysis of the data. Okay, next we are going to discuss about the observational methods. We are going to call this one as actually the classification of the evaluation. Okay, so the classification is think aloud, cooperative evaluation, protocol analysis, and automated analysis, and post-task walkthroughs you are going to have. And we are going to learn about these 5 types of the classifications of the evaluation. Okay, the think aloud. User observed performing task. In the think aloud, okay, so the user is going to be observed for the performing of the task, and the user asked to describe what he is doing and why, what he thinks is happening, etc. So here in the think aloud evaluation technique, the user is going to be concentrated, okay, and the user is going to be asked to describe what actually he is doing and why he is doing and what he thinks is happening when he is going to do something. The advantages of the think aloud are simplicity, can provide useful insight, and can show how system is actually used, because the user here writing or describing what exactly he is doing with the system. And the disadvantages of the think aloud are actually it is subjective. Okay, it is going to be subjective and selective because it is going to be based on only one or a limited number of users, and their users are going to may have our own, just like us. And act of describing may alter task performance. Okay, so the describing is going to alter the task performance actually, because he's going to concentrate on the describing only. He's not going to use the actual, he's not going to perform the task in a fully concentrated way. So this is the first one, the think aloud. And the next one is cooperative evaluation. Here, variation is going to be on the think aloud. The user collaborates in evaluation. Both user and evaluator can ask each other questions throughout. Here, in the previous think aloud, the user only is going to be participated into the evaluation process. And in the next one, cooperative evaluation, the user as well as the evaluator are going to be participated into the evaluation process, and they are going to ask each other questions throughout the task performance. And the additional advantage, along with the think aloud, less constrained and easier to use. User is encouraged to criticize the system, and clarification is going to be possible because here the evaluator is also participating in the system evaluation. Okay, and next one is protocol analysis. It is a paper and pencil based. Okay, so it is very cheap, limited to writing speed. And if you are going to have audio, good for think aloud, difficult to match with other protocols. And if it is belongs to video, it is accurate and realistic, needs special equipment like cameras and the lighting and all these things, and it is obtrusive. And the computer logging, actually you are going to have automatic and unobtrusive, large amount of data difficult to analyze. So the logging is nothing but it is going to make some note into somewhere else, whatever you are going to do. And the user notebooks, actually this is going to be happen, course and the subjective, useful insights, good for longitudinal studies. And this is going to be protocol analysis is going to be used with mixed use in practice, either with the audio video or video computer logging or audio computer logging or something. Audio video transcription difficult and requires skill, and some automatic support tools are available for the audio video transcription. Okay, so then automated analysis, EVA, you are going to have here. So workplace project it is actually, and post task walkthrough will be there. User reacts on action after the event. User use it to fill an in intention. You are going to have some form, feedback form after using of the task, after performing of the task, and that has to be filled in intention. And the advantage with the automated analysis is analyst has time to focus on relevant incidents and avoid excessive interruption of the task. And disadvantages of the automated analysis are lack of freshness and maybe post hoc interpretation of the events. Okay, and then post task walkthroughs. Okay, already I have told you, task after completion of the task, you are going to have some walkthrough, some feedback or some fill-in forms are going to be given, and the transcript played back to participant for comment immediately fresh in mind. Delayed evaluator has time to identify the questions. Useful to identify regions for actions and alternatives considered. So it is useful to identify the regions for actions and alternatives considered, and necessary in cases where think aloud is not possible. Okay, so this is regarding the post-task walkthroughs. And these all are the different types of the classification of the evaluations. Okay, observational methods and queries. And in the observational methods, you are going to have the think aloud, cooperative evaluation, protocol analysis, automated analysis, post-task walkthroughs. And then the next classification of the evaluation is going to have the query techniques. Here you are going to have the interviews and some questionnaires. And the interviews, analyst questions user on one-to-one basis, usually based on prepared questions, obviously, and informal, subjective, and relatively cheap. So after completion of the performing of the task, the user has to answer some questions, prepared questions. Okay, and the advantages of the interviews can be varied to suit context. Okay, so one user is using in one context and other user is using another context. Okay, in the previous, the post task walkthrough or the automated analysis or whatever you have learned in the previous one, okay, those are actually with for every context the questionnaire, the analysis will be the same. But here in interview, okay, the user is going to the questionnaire, the evaluator is going to ask the questions after completing of the performing of the task based on his context, and issues can be explored more fully and can elicit a user views and identify unanticipated problems it is going to have. And the disadvantage is very subjective and time consuming actually, because for every user I need to prepare some questions and I need to ask the questions and I need to get the feedback from them and then I need to evaluate. So it is time consuming. And the questionnaire, set of fixed questions given to users, and quick and reaches large user groups can be analyzed more rigorously and less flexible, less probing, and it is actually it is not suited for the context. And need a careful design of the questions, what information is required, how answers are to be analyzed. And the styles of questions will be general, open-ended, scalar, multi-choice, ranked, and all these things. So this is regarding the evaluation. The classification of the evaluation will be observational methods as well as with the query techniques. These two are going to be called as the classification of the evaluation. And observational method, you are going to have think aloud, cooperative evaluation, protocol analysis, automated analysis, post-task walkthroughs. Okay, and in the question and the query techniques, okay, you are going to have the interviews and you are going to have the questionnaire. Clear, guys? So this is what regarding the evaluation techniques. Thank you very much, and please don't forget to subscribe to my channel RC Techno Trends. Thank you very much.